the past, throughout human history, we ended up with a situation in which the vast majority of us, 75% or more of us, will be eventually acquiring parts of our bodies that we weren't born with. Bone is the most transplanted human material after blood, and we are replacing millions of joints per year, oftentimes because of just a couple millimeters of damaged cartilage. I'm an electrical engineer, went to community college after Cooper Union, and pivoted to this space, so thank you for your comments on that, and ended up in the lab of Bob Langer at MIT, which was a really wonderful place to explore this work. So the only way to get human bone until now is to cut it out of a human. What we do at EpiBone is we take the cells that grew our bodies in the first place, repair our bodies every day, and extract them and put them into a biomaterial, culture them, and we've got, after 3 weeks, we can make bone, 4 weeks we can make cartilage, and last year we made history as the first biotechnology greenlit by the FDA to use this approach in humans. We have now successfully, as of August 25th, completed our phase 1/2 implantations, first in man, first in class therapy, really happy about that. We're painting a world, a picture of a world in which we don't need to replace parts of our bodies with metal, plastic. We can be the medicine.
With Senator Warner, the House Science, Space, and Technology Committee is the most bipartisan committee, and it is a committee where everything is a bipartisan bill or amendment, and we voice vote. We've only had one fight, and that was where 2 members were fighting over who got credit, as opposed to the issue, and that is a wonderful thing for everything that you do.
Hi everyone, hope you're doing well this week. Super exciting video today because we're gonna talk about the new executive order around biomanufacturing that had just happened in the United States this week. It's also following the Israeli government's push to put cultivated foods and cellular agriculture as a national priority. Also, China has done that very recently as well within the past year. And so now the US is also doing the same thing. So we're starting to see a lot of momentum in government towards this technology, which is super exciting for us as investors as we start to see this push to regulate these products to bring them into market. Let's get into the video. Okay, so here we are on the website of the White House Executive Order on Advancing Biotechnology. That's too long for me to read. Okay, let's go background press call. This is what we want. Okay, so this happened on September 11th, so this was signed on the 12th. Let's just take a step back and describe why the president is launching this initiative at this time. So we know that the global industry is on the cusp of a revolution powered by biotechnology. Analysis and facts suggest that before the end of the decade, engineering biology holds the potential to be used in manufacturing industries that account for more than 1/3 of global output. That's equivalent to almost 30 trillion in terms of value. Again, let's refer to the Tony Seba presentation. Living factories, cells, and biomass can be used to make almost anything that we use in our day-to-day lives, from medicines to fuels to plastics to food. And we saw that in the very first clip of this video with the introduction around organ replacement, body replacement. If you break a bone and you have to get a stent in your leg or something, now it's a pain in the ass because you got to go through airport security with a metal rod in your back or in your knee. Now we can just grow those bones. So we're getting a lot more advanced than the medicine. We're getting a lot more advanced around the food. It's super exciting. On Wednesday, the White House will hold a summit on the bioeconomy and biomanufacturing. We will announce new investments and resources across a wide range of agencies that will allow the United States to harness the full potential of biotechnology and biomanufacturing. Those are the clips you've just seen in this video. I'm going to show some more from the summit very soon. Okay, what is biotechnology and biomanufacturing?
Today Ginkgo's the largest designer of synthetic DNA in the world. What does that mean? It means you go on a computer, you type ATC, GGG, you hit print, and a piece of DNA gets printed out of our labs in Boston or partner companies like Twist in California. We then take that DNA and we put it into the genome of a cell. Think like installing an app on your phone.
Basically, now we have computers. We can write code on our computers, and we can edit the genome, and we can take DNA and we can put it into cells, and we can change things, and we can write code for genes. So now that we have all that technology, we can actually do something with it to make better medicine, make better food. The investments, programs, and partnerships in this initiative will advance research and development in engineering, biology, and biomanufacturing, expand and strengthen domestic biomanufacturing capacity and resilient supply chains. It will help bring bioproducts to market that will help support American farmers and reduce risk through biosecurity innovation, as well as enhance workforce training and education programs for the next generation of biotechnologists. Beyond federal investment, the initiative takes on a series of actions to create more robust markets for bio-based products at home and globally, to expand the access to biotech, and to translate research and development into vital products and services faster. The initiative's impact will be far-reaching. Tomorrow in Boston, the president will give remarks on the power of biotechnology and biomanufacturing to end cancer as we know it. Right? So we have the technology soon to end cancer. If you haven't been following that, I highly encourage you to look more into the medicine and the science. But the power extends far beyond healthcare. It will enable us to reinvent America's supply chains, which are 100 years old, transitioning away from chemicals that rely on oil and gas towards cleaner, safer, and more reliable alternatives that we make right here at home. The transition will create jobs across America. So those are the top things. Okay. We are also looking to improve food security and drive agricultural innovation, including through new technologies that protect crops from disease, enhance seeds and fertilizers, and foods made with cultured animal cells. Okay, let's take a look here at vegan news. They have some comments on Biden embracing cultivated meat. So one of the things, government agencies need to submit a report within 180 days in order to further the initiative. So the Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack, will need to assess how to use biotechnology and biomanufacturing for food and agriculture innovation, including by improving sustainability and land conservation. Well, this is exactly what the technology is supposed to do. Increase food quality and nutrition. Again, so we're going to improve sustainability and land conversion because we don't need to kill animals, and so we can drastically reduce the amount of land we use. Increase food quality and nutrition. Well, if we can control the proteins that are in the food, again, creating food for the end user, then we can improve nutrition. When you think about it, the way humans have been eating for hundreds of years has been for survival. No one is eating for longevity. No one is eating for increased athleticism. And we're doing that in some way. We have a very rudimentary understanding of nutrition, how to build muscle or whatever if you're going to the gym, but we don't actually have food that is tailored towards those use cases, right? Increasing and protecting agricultural yields, protecting against plant and animal pests and diseases. Most of the antibiotics in the world are given to the industrial food system, the animals within that system. That creates huge risks, which I'll talk about in another video, and cultivating alternative food sources. Cellular agriculture offers, well, it takes animals out of the food system, which results in reduced use of resources, greenhouse gas emissions, animal exploitation, protection of humans from public health scares related to zoonotic diseases, hello COVID, all the while feeding the growing world population. Currently, the only country in the world that is granted regulatory approval to cultivated meat is Singapore. Good job, Singapore, which gave Good Meat's cultivated chicken bites its stamp of approval in late 2020. So here we are 2 years later. Good job on the US for catching up. Hopefully, we'll have some approvals soon so that we can start to see some of these products on the shelves in the US. The US is a leader generally in cultivated meat. If you look at where the private startups are, we have the Netherlands, we have the United States, we have Israel. Those are kind of the three main players right now. So Good Meat is working with the USDA and the Food and Drug Administration, which are the two players handling regulatory approval in the US. So hopefully we'll start to see, again, some of these products being offered in 2023. Good Meat also recently signed a multi-year partnership with ABEC, a bioprocess equipment innovator, which basically a bioreactor, which is basically a fermenter. Okay, so how do you ferment beer? When you go to a brewery, you do it in a fermenter. That's what these bioprocess equipments are. You're just making a shit ton of beer. So we're going to help build out the bioreactors in the US, and it will initially grow mammalian and avian cells into real meat using the process similar to beer brewing. So at scale, once they finish producing this, they'll be able to produce 30 million pounds of cultivated meat domestically, all without slaughtering a single animal. So it seems like what's happening is that the industry is pushing government, because a lot of these, like the challenge now is we have these prototypes and they can't be sold to the public, and we need the scale. And so companies are just going ahead and saying, you know what, we don't currently have the regulatory approval to sell this stuff, but we're going to go ahead and build these facilities anyway because we expect to get regulatory approval. Okay, so we're building the cart a little, we're putting the cart before the horse here, which I think is really good. In August, Biden signed the U.S. climate bill into law, allocating $369 billion to support the country's goal of slashing its carbon emissions by 40% by 2030. Again, 2030. So we have 10 years. We have 10 years for the curves, the cost curves to come down. And essentially, within the next 10 years, we're looking at completely transitioning towards using renewable energy and having an economy that's going to be using a lot of these new precision fermentation and cultivated meat-based foods. The president's new executive order gives this emerging industry, which now counts more than 100 companies in 25 countries, the added support to its path towards commercialization. So, great news for the US. I'm super excited to see this news. I was not expecting it. Again, I know a number of these startups are working on regulatory approval right now in the US. I'm super excited to see that this is actually happening. Yeah, super excited. So great job.
Who is the founder and CEO of Air Protein, who is literally taking space age technology into sustainable meat alternatives. Can't wait to hear more about that. And in continuing along this sort of sustainability theme, I'd like to turn to Dr. Dyson. So I did Google you. I watched a lot of your videos, and I've heard you talk a lot about a sustainable future. Can you talk a little bit about what that means to you, and where does biotechnology fit into that?
Absolutely. So wonderful to be here. And I'll start by talking about how I got here. So my mother's from Louisiana, and I went there a lot as a kid, but I went back in 2005 to a very different reality. After Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, I was one of the many people who went to try to help rebuild the city. And at that point, it became very clear to me just the devastating impact of weather events. That was my first time really seeing the devastating impact of weather events. And as weather events become more frequent and more intense, my question was, how could I be a part of the solution? So ultimately started a company called Converti and then Air Protein with Dr. John Reed and James White to really attack that issue. And so as we try to innovate to solve some of the problems, thinking outside the box is necessary. In our case, we actually thought outside the planet, going to another governmental agency, NASA, during the space program in the 60s and 70s. They had the question, if we were to send astronauts on long space journeys, how could we feed them very effectively if they're gone for a year or more? And of course, if you leave the planet with with carbon, you don't pick up any along the way. You have to figure out how to recycle it. And so one of the ideas they came up with was to use elements of the air essentially to create nutrients and create closed loop carbon cycles. So we picked up where they left off and began working on a way to take elements of the air to manufacture products and ultimately with air protein food. And one of the biggest problems, of course, is that the food industry produces more greenhouse gases than the entire transportation sector. And it is a huge contributor to deforestation. 2019 saw record fires in Brazil to make room for cattle grazing. So that's something that we're really focused on addressing. And so with the technology that we're commercializing now, making food, essentially protein being kind of the biggest culprit in all of this, the way that we make meat specifically, making that from elements of the air in the way that's nutritious, all the essential amino acids, vitamins and minerals, vitamin B12 and other things, so that we can deliver really cleaner, greener solutions for our progeny. So as we, this is a very exciting time. A lot of people worked hard on, leading up to this initiative. I'm excited that it's being announced and that there is an effort to invest in advancing the bioeconomy. And as we do that, we can think about, when my grandparents were farmers back in, when they were born, early 1900s, there were 1.6 billion people on the planet. Now, we're almost at 8 billion. We'll be at 10 billion by 2050. We really do have to figure out how to solve some of the big challenges out there. And the bioeconomy really is going to be a part of that. And so I'm excited with this announcement and to be here today.
That's my video. Again, China has launched a lot of similar laws within the past year. Singapore's approved meat for sale. Now we're going to see that come to the US. 2023 is going to be a really great year. Super excited. If you're investing in the space, hope you're excited as well. Thanks, guys.